Welcome to the College of Science and Engineering's interview preparation session. From this video, you will learn how to prepare for many types of interviews, learn strategies for answering common interview questions, and gain new knowledge of additional interviewing resources to aid in your skill building and confidence. The purpose of an interview from the employer perspective is to learn more about you and how you could contribute to the position, as well as the culture of the organization. It's also a chance for you to highlight your skills, abilities, and interests, and to determine whether the position would be a good fit for your goals. When preparing for an interview, you should know your skills, how they relate to the position, and practice communicating the value of your skills. For many internships, jobs, and co-ops, interviews take place over several stages. The first interview with an employer is often referred to as a screening interview, where the employer is speaking with many candidates. First interviews are typically around 30 minutes in length and are often done over the phone or via digital software or synchronously via video. They are often with a human resources person or recruiter, and the purpose is to make sure you are qualified for the position. The interviewer will be covering your resume in detail and asking about your skills and qualifications for the role. During a second and possibly a third interview, an interviewer is trying to get a sense of your fit for the organization. These are typically longer than a screening interview, and you can meet with several different types of people in the company, including employees doing similar work, potential supervisors, administrators, and managers. For all types of interviews, be ready to discuss your qualifications and accomplishments. Following the 3 steps outlined here should help you in preparing for any interview. We will cover these in more detail, but generally, you want to first research the employer and the position. Second, identify what you could contribute in the way of skills the employer is seeking. And third, prepare stories as possible interview responses and practice your responses to interview questions. The first step when preparing to interview is to research the employer. Know and understand the services provided and/or the products developed within the company. There are several methods of learning about an employer, including online research via the employer website or their profile on a platform like Handshake, LinkedIn, or through their social media channels. You might also choose to do an online news search through Google or another search engine, or check local news sources. The University of Minnesota Library Database is another option, as well as the website glassdoor.com. Lastly, if you know someone at the company, reach out for an informational interview or career conversation and ask about the hiring process, the company culture, and other details that you would like to know if preparing for an interview. The next step is to know yourself. One challenge of interviewing is not knowing what the questions will be ahead of time. However, the skills that you are asked about in an interview are frequently found in the position description. Review the position description and make a list of skills and qualifications required to do the job. Use these skills to create a list of questions an employer might ask in an interview. Questions to ask yourself include: what are your greatest strengths? How would you describe yourself, and how would others describe your strengths? In short, why should the employer hire you? When thinking about strengths and skills, it can be helpful to evaluate your strengths as they align with the position. Some common strengths that employers seek include analytical skills, being collaborative, creative problem solving, communication skills, having attention to detail, having leadership experience, and being dependable, among others. There are various types of questions you will encounter in an interview, including traditional questions such as "tell me about yourself" and "strengths and weaknesses," questions related to the items on your resume, behavioral questions which ask you to communicate a specific experience, technical questions, and case or situational questions when you are asked how you would handle a situation or problem. This table shows data collected from the University of Minnesota's employer survey from 2020. In response to the question, what types of interview questions do you predominantly ask in interviews? Unstructured questions included those that were improvised or included questions related to strengths and weaknesses. As you can see, behavioral questions are common and the primary interviewing style used by employers. Behavioral questions start with, "tell me about a time when," or "give me an example of," "describe a situation where." Examples of behavioral interview questions could be, Describe an experience where you had to work as part of a team to achieve a result. Or, tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult customer. How did you handle the situation? As a STEM student, you may get asked technical questions, which are used to gauge your technical understanding and problem-solving skills. Situational or case questions are used mostly with consulting companies and are used to test your analytical abilities, organizational skills, poise, ability to deal with ambiguity, and problem solving. One of the most common starting points in an interview will be a warm-up question. Specifically, tell me about yourself, or tell me about your interest in this position, or tell us about your background. The difficulty with a question like this is that it can be ambiguous and difficult to determine exactly what you are supposed to discuss. One helpful strategy is to consider your present involvement, your past experience related to work or projects related to the position, and your future goals. If you are familiar with the concept of the elevator pitch, that can also be a useful framework. What might you say to a potential employer if you had less than a minute or the time it might take to ride an elevator from the first to the 20th floor with that person? An example could go like this. Present. I'm currently in my junior year at the University of Minnesota where I am studying mechanical engineering. I'm also involved in the Society of Women Engineers as the group treasurer. Past. Last semester, I worked part-time in a research lab within the mechanical engineering department while also working at a local retailer part-time. My research experience taught me how to manage data collection related to hybrid vehicle use, while my retail experience has improved my problem-solving and teamwork skills due to the collaborative nature of the job. Future. I am interested in the internship with your company because I would like to apply my technical design knowledge to the products your company manufactures. Another common question is, what are your strengths? Use the job description and the company research you conduct to inform you of the skills and qualities the employer is seeking, then identify which of these are your personal strengths. When asked what are your strengths, name a few related to the position and then give detailed examples of how you have demonstrated these strengths in the past. Remember, employers are looking for evidence in your answer. You can also share how you intend to use these strengths in the position. In terms of what is one of your weaknesses, employers want you to be honest. Because we do not like to highlight our weaker areas, it's tempting to choose a characteristic that might actually be seen as a strength. For example, saying that you work too hard or that you are a perfectionist may feel like a weakness to you, but most people would view these as strengths. It's best to avoid these overused characteristics and instead select a weakness that is not going to impact your ability to do the job and one that shows self-awareness. Tell them one of your weaknesses and then give an example of how you are working on it. Be specific about the steps you have taken to manage this weakness. If you are having trouble thinking of a weakness that you are comfortable discussing, it may help to reframe this question as, what is an area that I could improve upon? Or, how am I hoping to grow in a position such as this? Since behavioral questions are incredibly common, most of your preparation time would be well spent thinking of examples of when you have used specific skills. One way to prepare is to consider the more common skills asked in an interview, including communication, leadership, problem-solving and analytical skills, research experience, conflict, interpersonal skills, and time management. Also consider the various roles you have taken on, including being a student, an employee, an intern, a club member, a team member, and a volunteer. In the example on this slide, you see many roles visualized as containers. Take one skill, such as communication, then think about when you were effective in communication in these various roles. After going through an exercise like this, you might have up to 4 examples in each container, which creates many examples to draw upon in an interview. Another strategy for generating answers to behavioral questions is to consider your accomplishments or your shining moments. Think about a time when you were successful in achieving a goal. What was challenging about the situation? What was the problem you needed to solve, and what skills did you use to achieve the goal? What is STAR? STAR is a method for answering behavioral interviewing questions and stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. Use this method to lay out how you will construct a response to a behavioral question. S stands for Situation. You would give an example of a situation that resulted in a positive outcome. What was the task? What was the situation? A stands for the action. What did you do to complete the task or overcome the challenge? R stands for result. What was the outcome? What did you contribute? The result is often the most forgotten element in answering behavioral questions, but also one of the most important things to tell the interviewer about. When answering behavioral questions, go through these steps to be sure your answer is specific and demonstrates how you used a skill. In this example, in answering the question, tell us about a time where you took a leadership role, a situation could be vocalized such as this. I was elected vice president for my student association. The duties of the position included securing speakers for our meetings, advertising the programs to the campus community, and evaluating each program. The task. Previous attendance at meetings had decreased. The goal was to implement programs to address the professional development of our association and increase attendance by 25%. Action. I assembled a team to help with the program design and speaker selection. I developed a survey to determine the members' professional interests and ideas for possible speakers and topics. My team and I each had a member complete the survey. Then we randomly selected members for a focus group interview. Result. Because of the information we gathered from the surveys and interviews, we selected speakers for the entire year, produced a brochure describing each program and the featured speaker. Under my leadership, attendance increased 150% over the previous year. Another common question may relate to salary. Questions about salary expectations may come up in job interviews but are rare in interviews for internships. Prepare by researching the salary range for similar positions. Salary data can be found through multiple sources, including graduate outcomes data collected annually by the College of Science and Engineering Career Center. This information can be found on the Career Center website. Glassdoor.com, the Minnesota State CareerWise website, Salary.com, and PayScale are other reputable resources. If you have access to someone who works or has worked for the employer, you can ask about typical salary ranges for the position. When answering a salary question, it can help to give a range based upon your research. There are several ways to handle questions about salary expectations. One way is to give a range, as stated earlier. For example, if the employer asks, "What are your salary expectations?" a response could be, "Based on my research of similar positions within this industry and my previous experience with," name your skill and experiences, "I would hope to start somewhere between $55,000 and $63,000. On the other hand, if you are not comfortable with giving a range, a response could be, "I'd prefer to learn a little bit more about this position before answering the question. Could we talk a bit more about your expectations for the role and how my skills might fit?" Technical questions are common in science and engineering professions. These questions may include puzzles, brain teasers, numerical reasoning questions, or any combination of these types of questions. It is not unusual for an interviewer to show a candidate a wiring diagram or a line of computer code and expect analysis in a technical interview question. Bear in mind that interviewers are interested in technical capabilities past basic knowledge. Employers are looking for how candidates approach problems, construct their thought processes, and demonstrate personal skills like communication. Review the position description and prepare to discuss and demonstrate the technical skills required. Take your time when answering the question and ask for clarification if you do not understand. Ask for time to think about the answer and talk through your thought process. And if you don't know the answer, be honest and let the interviewer know what you do know related to the problem. At the end of your interview, it is typical for an interviewer to ask if you have any questions for them. Always ask a couple of questions, as doing so demonstrates interest and enthusiasm and gives you a chance to learn more about the role or company. Write down your questions and bring them with you to the interview so you can take notes. Examples of common questions to ask at the end of an interview include, can you tell me what kind of training a new member of this team might expect? Or, I'm interested in, name the experience, would that be something I would have a chance to learn? At this stage, it is not advisable to ask questions about compensation, benefits, or vacation time. These elements are important to discuss after you receive an offer. Once you have had a chance to ask questions, restate your interest in the position, and if you want to move forward in the interview process, let them know you are eager to do so. Be sure to have an understanding of next steps in the process. Ask about when they expect to fill the position and if there are additional interviews. It's also a good idea to ask how you could follow up in case you have additional questions. After the interview, make sure to send a thank you note within about 48 hours. Email is acceptable. In your email, mention something that you learned from the conversation, such as, I enjoyed learning more about the new software your division is creating. Say that you look forward to hearing from them soon. Be sure to follow up with the organization if you are still interested in the position. If they said they would contact you by a certain date and you haven't heard from them, be sure to contact them. You should also take the time to evaluate your performance. What went well? What could you improve on? And what was your overall impression of the employer and the position? It's becoming more common for employers to request a virtual interview for the first round and often subsequent interviews. Virtual can mean interviewing by phone, asynchronous video, otherwise known as digital, or synchronous video via a platform such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or Google Meet. Phone interviews are a very common first interview format. They often serve to screen a larger pool of candidates and are typically briefer than a traditional in-person interview. A disadvantage is that you are missing out on a key source of feedback about your interview, nonverbal body language and facial expressions. One of the advantages of a phone interview includes being able to have key documents in front of you for referral, such as your resume or notes. A digital interview is one in which you are given question prompts and you record your response, and then a copy of your interview video can be viewed by interviewers at a convenient time for them. The interviewee has flexibility in recording the interview and is often given multiple attempts to record a question response. Synchronous video interviews are conducted via software like Zoom, Google Hangouts, and others. The advantages of this type of interview are that it offers more of a way to connect and build rapport with the interviewers because you are communicating in real time. You also have an opportunity to have your notes in front of you to reference. Let's talk now about some of the logistics of video interviews. You will want to confirm the specifics of the interview time and location, particularly if you are interviewing in a different time zone. You should also spend some time reviewing how to use whatever digital platform you will be using. You can view instructional videos on YouTube, or the information may be sent to you in an invitation confirming your interview. This means that you should check your technology. You will want to be sure you have a functioning webcam and mic and a reliable internet connection. The location you choose to use can make a big difference in being seen as a professional. It's recommended that you place your computer on a flat surface at eye level and choose a clean and uncluttered background so that the attention is focused on you and not what is behind you. Try to find a private place away from distractions, like other people or pets, and turn off any apps or notifications on the device you are using. Just as you would for an in-person interview, be sure your phone is put away so you will not be distracted. Your attire for a video or digital interview depends a bit on the role you are interviewing for, but in general, dressing in a nice top is advisable. Even though the interviewer will only see your top half, please do not wear sweatpants or too casual pants. You may unexpectedly need to stand up to adjust lighting or for another reason. Also, dressing the part of an in-person interview may change your mindset and improve performance. Dress in clothing that you would wear to an interview and in something that makes you feel confident. During the interview, sit up and look at your camera, not the screen, in order to establish eye contact. Before your interview, give yourself plenty of time to test your audio and video capabilities. Practice with a friend or schedule a virtual mock interview with a CSE career counselor. The University of Minnesota and the College of Science and Engineering offer interviewing assistance. You may use InterviewStream, which is a free online resource that allows you to record yourself answering interview questions. You can find InterviewStream by logging into handshake.umn.edu and looking in the Resources section. Schedule a mock interview with a CSE career counselor to learn more about interviewing and perfect your interview skills, and check out our interviewing guide for sample questions and more information. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and we look forward to seeing you in the Career Center.